Welcome everyone to an enriching episode of Beyond Millions with Rich Rich. Today we have an extraordinary guest with us, Aanya Jai, who embodies a unique blend of psychology, creativity, and innovation. Anya's impressive academic journey spans universities like Harvard and IIM Bangalore. She did double masters in psychology and public administration. Thank you so much, Anya, for joining us, and I cannot wait to have a wonderful conversation with you.
Thank you, Richa. Thank you so much for having me here. And it's so lovely to do this podcast with you. And I'm really looking forward to our engaging conversation. And yes, let's get started with respect to this. Yes.
So, Anya, let's begin with your academic journey, or how was your childhood, and what motivated you to become a psychology expert?
All right. So my beginnings were very humble. I grew up on a farm. That was almost 10 years of my life. So till third standard, the school was almost 20 kilometers away. And it was in this place called Deoga, which is around 60 kilometers from Shirdi, or the city of Nashik. And I would do up and down quite some time. And yeah, I didn't speak in English. I didn't for a very long time. And then for higher education from fourth standard, I think we shifted to Pune, and that's where the journey began. So I was in St. Anne's. I did my 11th and 12th PCMB IT. I did my graduation in computer science, actually, and because that was the trend going on that time, and I really wanted to get into pediatrics as well as in psychiatry. However, things didn't work out as I had hoped them to. So I settled for that. But yes, post my graduation in computer science, I decided to switch over. I did my master's in public administration. Public administration because I was preparing for civil services, and I wanted to do something for my country. I wanted to, contribute in some way. And that's the reason. So I had two subjects. One was public administration and sociology. And then, so I did a master's in PubAd, and then I did my master's also in counseling psychology. So that time it was through distance learning. So I had to make up for everything because I was really curious. I didn't do it for the sake of doing it. I really wanted to, know the subject. And since I was a kid, I was very curious about why people behave the way they do. Why do people do this? Why do they do that? Why do they get angry? Why do they shout? Why do they not speak? So these questions always, and about my own self, the understanding of my own self, like, how does all of this work? And psychology, I started as a child psychologist, and I did this short course with gifted children. Gifted means above average children. So it was a 6 months course at a place called Nan Prabodhini in Pune. And it was amazing. And post that, I realized, like, this is my calling. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And luckily, I was about to get married and things. And before that, I really wanted to do, or learn in one of the top universities in the world. So I applied to Yale, I applied to Oxford, and I applied to Harvard for a short summer course. And I got through Harvard. So that is the reason.
Wow.
I went. Yeah, so I went. I did my course in. It was called Self and Society: A Cultural History of Psychology, and it was a 7-week on-campus course. And yeah, I learned so much, and that kind of exposure, being in Harvard and all that. And yeah, then came back. Yes.
So, how your Harvard experience shaped your perspective on mental health? Because I saw your academic background. It has a unique combination of psychology, public administration, and entrepreneurship, right? So, after studying in Harvard, how everything changed, as a viewpoint on mental health?
As a viewpoint, it was very inclusive there. That is something that changed, and the motivation that they said, that whatever you're learning here, how are you going to carry it back with you? What are the changes that you're going to make? What
Mhm.
are the things that you're going to do? So for
Right.
me, that was a very big perspective, and I had the subject where I came to know the basics, how psychology evolved, that it was through philosophy and so many ages, and how did it what birthed psychology in that sense. So that is how it expanded in that sense. And for me, that yeah, I've learned here, and they motivated. So I did the Model UN over there. We did with so many students and so many people that I met across the world and who had come there. So it was like, अरे कुछ तो करना है, कुछ बड़ा करना है.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, it was simmered down. However, it didn't happen that impact what I was hoping in India, how much it can
Right.
happen.
Because I want to
It
know that
didn't.
when you came back to India, how everything changed, because
Yeah, it did because see, 2014, I came back. I did the course for I think 7-week course. It was a short course. It was not
Mm.
like a graduation. I came back, and to 2015, I got married. So I didn't get time to do the things that I wanted to do in that sense. And whatever I had learned, I would write it down. I tried to take workshops and grow. And in that sense, yeah, connecting with people was really hard because immediately I got married as well. So it didn't have that. Now I feel, and then now it's almost, yeah, 10 years. Post 10 years,
Mm.
now I can finally, have my little one. I have a 6-year-old, and now I can actually start my work. If I have to say, now is what I'm able to do what I learned and what all I have been studying and reading and things. It's taken me 10 years, yeah, a decade since then to finally do what I wanted to do. So, yes.
But then when in India you started like you started meeting the clients, and when you started, let's say, just in family or among the friends, when you started speaking about the mental health condition,
Yes.
did they perceive you as that, okay, she is an expert now, or she has knowledge about this field?
Mm. No, no, in India, unfortunately, that didn't happen. Uh, People, yeah, there were different kinds of people. Some people were really impressed, oh, and then they would test out knowledge, like, they would test me, oh, she's like, it was not very easy, like what I had expected. Oh, I have had the education from the best of universities, so okay, it'll be an easy way for me to get through, or, I'll get more collaborations and stuff and things,
Mm-hmm.
or hiring processes would be easier. But it was not so. It was unfortunately, it seemed very threatening to people. I seemed intimidating, in some ways. I've
Right.
countless interviews with people trying to collaborate and stuff, and they were like, they would look down upon me in that sense that maybe I was too elitist in ways, and they were like, oh wow, like, either they would test my knowledge. Either they would say it didn't matter if I went to Harvard. They're like, oh, so you did your master's actually from distance learning through IGNOU.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but that was the only option available for me at that point of time. Educational systems were not in place when means this is like 50, what 13, 14 years back. And so I did the most of what I could at that point of time, keeping in things. Colleagues, some did, they did have a lot of respect. I was maybe like a doll, like, oh, she has come, she was nice to portray and things, and have someone on the resume or on the company or something like that way. But the impact I wanted to do, it didn't happen as much. But yes, it did give me a solid voice. It did give me for people who did know and understand. But more than just the name, and now I can use it, right? Now I can.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was very young in the field as well, so I didn't know how to leverage it either. So though I was, and then people would take undue advantage. The scaling, they would get all the ideas, or I would have a very different perspective on mental health. But then there was nothing coming back, nothing that I could gain as well. So many such things happened, and it was mostly distance work. So I was traveling throughout the country as well, remote places in Arunachal and Srinagar. So,
Mm-hmm.
keeping things in place, it was really challenging in that sense. So I felt more like like a doll
Mm-hmm.
that, to show off that she's well educated and things. But yeah, the learnings and stuff, it would be not so much the impact. Still, I try to talk to people and say and this thing. But वही बोलते थे ना, you're trying to teach us too much. You
Right.
don't understand And plus, I was young, no? I was young as well. Who's going to listen? Now people listen because I've got the authority. So I'm using my age very well in that sense, because now people see as me as someone in authority. So I had to work my way through a lot. It was not an easy way to bring about change with respect to that. I had to prove it
Right.
very logically, lay out the correct kind of logical arguments in order to have people, accept changes in behavior. So, yes, in that sense.
Okay, so diving into psychology. So, as far as I have read, it's the only science without a definition, right?
Yeah, kind
So,
of.
how would you define it, and what are your thoughts on it?
See, basically for me, psychology, I knew what it was before I knew what it means, the terminology. I didn't even know that the subject is called psychology, because it's not taught in schools. It's hardly now, at
Right.
least there is some awareness. But 10, 15, 20 years back, there was no, 20, what, 25 years back also, there was no, like when I was in school. For me, it's very simple. It is the understanding of human behavior and human experience. Simple as that. Something that is non tangible. The reason why it's still not a science is because it's dynamic. Human behavior is dynamic. It is not static. It is not measurable. It takes a lot to actually measure human behavior and see the outcomes.
Mhm.
So it's like a chaos theory kind of. You don't know what small things can affect the bigger things. So that is the only reason. So for me, psychology is everything that is about human behavior and human experience in that sense. Yeah.
My next, like, I was curious about the conscious and the subconscious part of mine.
Yes.
So, I have read this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, written by Dr. Joseph Murphy, where
Yes.
he says that you can harness the power of your subconscious mind for personal growth and success. And also, the book highlights about the objective and the subjective mind, right?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The objective mind is your conscious mind that
Mm.
thinks very logically, and the
Yes.
subjective minds that takes the human emotions, your personal experiences. So your objective mind, that is the conscious mind, it takes the data
Mhm.
from your objective mind and analyze it.
Yes.
So what are your perspectives on conscious and subconscious mind when we talk in context of psychology or psychological well-being of human beings?
Um, so actually, the objective mind that you were talking about, it is perceived. So it's data, right? It's all information that you are collecting, and you collect this information through your senses, your visual, your auditory, your sensation, your taste, your smell. That is the objective mind. That is the
Mhm.
data you accumulate, and that is what you try and process when you're conscious. Just the same way how if I tell you to hold a pencil, you'll hold a pencil. That is the objective, right? You're aware. But there are reflex actions also that are happening, and also your heart is beating. Are you controlling the heartbeat? No, you're not controlling the heartbeat, right? It is happening subconsciously. So something like that way happens in the mind. Subconsciously also there are certain processes that are going on in your mind which you're not aware of. That is a very simple definition of what is conscious and subconscious, and there are aspects of unconscious also that you're completely unsure, like at least your heart, if you feel, you can know that it is beating, but there are so many micro processes, maybe the enzyme being released from your pituitary gland or from your thyroid gland. You are not even aware of these things that are happening, and this can be the unconscious aspects of it. Simply
Mhm.
put, not exactly, but just to give you a better understanding of what objectivity would look like and what a subjective aspect of it is there. It's all happening within you, of course. And there is this collective consciousness or unconsciousness as well that we are all connected, just the way we have shared similar DNA with people and with human beings. In the same way, and psychological, in the mindset also, there are theories where there is a common mind or there's a collective mind where we all have similar kind of experiences, similar kind of dreams. So yes, so that is a bit about subjective and objective and conscious, subconscious, unconscious aspects of it.
Do you think that um, all these play a role for a psychological well-being? Because I see even today Indian families, they just go silent about seeking therapist. for the
Right.
mental health. I believe like every family has one or the other member, or they have children, adults going through some hard phases of their life, like emotional distress, anxiety, depression. But I often see that when children talk about their mental health condition to their parents, that I'm suffering
Mhm.
from depression, their voice is silenced, saying that you don't need that. Tum
Yeah.
pagal nahi ho. So,
Okay.
what is your take on that, and how can we bring out a balance between these kinds of issues?
See, this I will explain to you in a systematic and social kind of a thing. And this is more I wouldn't say geopolitical in that sense, but I'll give you an example. We are a developing country, okay? We are not a developed country. We are still
Mm-hmm.
developing. That means if you know about the Maslow's triangle and the hierarchy, we are still in the survival mode, right? We are still surviving. Many of us, much of your population is still trying to get, daily wages and food and water and things like that. And then you are trying to survive. That is mostly of the middle class family. That is the struggle, day to day living kind of a thing that is happening. Now, in such societies where survival is so important, resilience is the key. Okay, you have to be very resilient. You don't have the luxury to not be resilient. So when parents are trying to say, like, if you give them, they'll give an example. हमारे टाइम पे तो ऐसे होता था, मारते थे, ये करते थे, फिर भी
Right.
देखो हम तो ठीक हो गए. So that is, they are talking about resilience, that you
Mm-hmm.
have to be resilient in life. You cannot be soft in that sense. Like if you get hurt, you get up and you start walking off, so that is one of the things. Now, what is not being realized is, in just this way, the industrial revolution happened. Like there was machinery, and now we have the software. First, they were dealing only with machinery. You see, only the body. Now, what is happening is, even in the mind, we are getting awareness with respect to the psychology, the software. We are understanding the software. So, though now this is not a new discovery, like how it's happening in the industrial or IT world. This is always, people have always suffered, but it's just that different names were given to it. So if someone really had some mental issues, they would, or epilepsy was something that was considered ki aap mein bhoot aa
Mm-hmm.
gaya, someone has taken possession of you. Many a times also, if you see, only women were shown to possess or be demonized. They, men,
Right.
you see hardly in any movies or anything, they hardly show that that women are possessed in any way, or sorry, that men are possessed. Now, the reason being, a woman is the only species where she houses two souls in one body. That is when she's pregnant. So this is where the patriarchal setup comes in as well. That okay, it's a woman. Anything that is beautiful about her will be changed into something demonic. So it's not that it's just happening now. It's just that the terminology, in the same way, like a constellation. There are stars. The Great Bear or the Orion Belt, or no, you did not even know that it was called, but you knew those three stars were there, those seven stars were there, those constellations are there since thousand, how many, God knows how many years with respect to
Right.
that. Now you're naming them. Scientists are naming them. They're calling it something. Gravity has physics, any subject you see. It's just that we are naming it, and there is being a transition from the hardware to the software part. So our parents or the older generation is saying, "Yeah, focus on the hardware, focus on the hardware, focus on this thing." They're not understanding the IT part of the human body or
Mm-hmm.
the human mind. I mean, it's as simple as that. So now, if you are going to evolve, you will need to grow the next generation. That is what evolution is. The next generation has to get smarter with respect to that.
Right.
So, so that is
Because
what my take is.
yeah,
Yeah.
because mental health in India is it's still, I think, associated with shame, especially in the families who really don't want to see the benefits of seeking a therapist, or who really don't know that what mental health issues can bring to a family or to a person, right? Because I have been surrounded by some of my friends or colleagues who have suffered from PTSD, say, or ADHD, stress, anxiety, and
Mhm.
people are mostly reluctant. They just don't want to go and seek a therapy because everything is associated to shame and the societal expectations and what the society will say.
Yes. Now, there is a reason for that. Ours is a very cohesive society. It's a very strong family unit, it's just a few decades that we have started to actually get into the nuclear family system, or placing that the individual is more important than the whole. So when the whole is important, that when a family or community is more important, what happens is the individual cannot be themselves. Now, what happens is credibility. The shame is related to credibility. All you can see is how credible you are. The moment you suffer any mental health issue, your credibility of making logical decisions gets pointed out on. That is the reason why people are so afraid. They don't want to be vulnerable. The moment you show vulnerability, see, as I said, we are a developing country. The main aim is survival. We cannot show vulnerability. Vulnerability happens only at higher levels of being, right? Then you are safe enough, strong enough. Now, though, we are still at cutthroat. You are better than me. You will take my thing. What is, we are still functioning from a survival mode, not from the abundance mode. So, in this sense, your credibility is very important, and you cannot show vulnerability. Why will you? So that is the reason why even parents, and they have survived and they have to show off. So there is a fake persona that is like, oh, I'm okay. Now again, ADHD is very different. PTSD is very different. There are certain neurological aspects with respect to this. Though again, it's on a spectrum. All of this is on a spectrum, and the common public doesn't have enough expertise with respect to it. It's like even now, you don't know if your fever is with respect to a common cold, which will go away in a 4 or 5 days and it'll become normal, or is it going to lead to pneumonia? Many deaths are happening because of pneumonia as well. That is, though there is so much of advancement in in medicine. Why is that? Because the spectrum, you don't come to know at what level to seek help. It's not that they don't want to. They think that no, this is weak. This is something manageable. I can manage this. My child will be able. Mera bachcha hai, has to be strong. I've survived life. I'm still alive. I'm still earning. Mera bachcha hai. People live through their children in this way as well. That what is going to happen, and questions and things like that. So it is on a spectrum. Now, even if someone has PTSD, it is on a spectrum. Now, at what level to seek it? And some human beings, no matter what they have gone through, they still come through it. They still heal from it without any interventions as well. No, but that is not case for everyone. There are different, each one's resilience. It's like immunity. Resilience is nothing but immunity. Now, someone's immunity is good, and means you saw what happened in COVID as well. Some people are immune. They got it 1, 2 times, they survived. And there were some people who were weak and vulnerable and they didn't. In the same way, it's with respect to mental health as well. So it's on a spectrum. And again, the definition and ADHD, hyperactivity, I thought, don't even especially in the lower spectrum, or the spectrum which is not very high, I see it as a very normal functioning, like just children who are really active, and they means the society needs to adjust to them. That is my belief. Like I strongly believe in inclusion of individuals into the society. And even in classrooms, I've seen, many parents are like, "Are aisa wala bachcha hamare class mein nahi." Though there are laws with respect to responsibility towards children. नहीं नहीं मेरा बच्चा ऐसे ऐसे बच्चों के साथ ही नहीं कुछ गलत सीख लेगा and stuff. But I've seen that children learn so much. They learn that there are neurologically divergent children. There are, everyone is not made the same. They are more helpful. I've seen classrooms which are more helpful to these children. Bullying it bhi hota hai, but that is rare. Like, if the teacher does the right kind of education for them and teaches the children what empathy looks like, how do you include the children? For me, I had like that way in my school. There was a girl. There was a child which was, and she would come in a wheelchair. I think when I was young, I didn't understand what was, what was the difficulty she was facing. And but yeah, it's made me so empathetic towards people. And one of the things that I've learned is, like, we feel sorry for them. But actually, no, but actually, they give you grace. In the sense that, see, no matter if you see any child or any person suffering, you feel thankful, right? You feel thankful, I am at a better place, maybe, or I am doing better at least. But you see, did you give them anything? Did you do anything for them? No, but they did something for you, right?
Right. But that is this, I think, the societal belief that when they see a very different child or very different person, they see that they feel sorry for that person, because maybe they are not aware of, the
Yeah.
giving part of
Yes,
that.
because they've not lived through it, or they don't know what it is. Because
Right.
normal and anything different from, see, this is a very evolutionary aspect. Anything that is not normal is usually, Baba, uske paas nahi jana hai. That's
Hmm.
how evolution is. Na? You don't know, you're not familiar with something, you stay away from it. That is how we have evolved and survived and come to this stage in
Yeah.
evolution. So these things, but now that we are more conscious beings, we are overcoming our animal instincts. Not everyone in the society does that, but yeah. So these are some aspects to consider as
Mhm.
well.
But then there are some families, even now, where if they see that the children is behaving in a different way, and I guess at various level, a child or a person, exhibits the symptoms, like all of a sudden they will stop eating or they will overeat a lot.
Yes,
But the family, the parents, they often say that they compare
denial.
their child and they're like,
Yes, the
you're not
denial.
like the one, you're not like our neighbor's son, you're not like our neighbor's daughter. And I think that is not included even in the family system, because they see
Yeah.
that child is very different, that मेरे बच्चे को कुछ अलग हो गया है, and
Mm.
he is sick or she is sick, he is not normal.
Very sad thing also. It's a very sad thing because parents who acknowledge it and do something, it's a very complex kind of a system also, because they don't have the available resources to address it. Uh, like, I'll give you an example. There was this artist, it was my friend's child. She's not my friend anymore, though. And he was autistic and exhibited, just because someone is autistic does not mean the sexual development doesn't happen, right? And they are not aware. They think that no, bacha hi hai, but the
Mm.
child is 14 years old and things like that. And I really went and explained, like, these things are there because he was getting in trouble in school and stuff and things like that. I said, you can't, you need to socialize him, you need to do that. But no, they're in denial. They can't see. They have been so that again, parenting and counseling parents of such children. First is denial. They have a mental picture that they have to protect this child from anything. My child can do no wrong. Any kind of criticism, anything pointing a finger, like, they see it not as something to heal, but अरे denial में चले जाते हैं, नहीं मेरे कैसे wrong नहीं हो सकता है, anything to do with the mind. And if as I said, the credibility is pointed out on, and most of the shame the mother has to carry, is rarely the father, and even the relatives and stuff blame the mother as well. So in order to avoid the humiliation and the outcasting of things, because see, if you're different, you will not be invited into social gatherings, you will be kept aside, and that exclusion and all of those aspects. In order to avoid that pain, people tend to become they want to deny things. They're like, no, it is okay, it's perfectly normal, because they
Mhm.
don't want to reduce the opportunities that the child might be getting or they themselves may be getting.
Right.
So it's a very complex system in that sense as well. Yeah.
But then, do you think that if we avoid such thing or we ignore such conditions, then youngsters, in their late life, they can get exhausted with the relationship, or they can get exhausted or overwhelmed with the work, with the job lifestyle,
Yeah,
or
because if you force, yes, yes, because if you force someone to do something that they don't want to do, it will lead to exhaustion, right? I mean, day in and day out, that is what it is. You keep, exposing, burnout will be there.
right.
If you consider it a machine, mixer है, चलाते रहो, चलाते रहो, चला रहे थे, उसका बंद तो होगा वो. If you don't know how to care for it. So if you
Mhm.
don't know how to care, if you've not learned that, and all these, the accumulated people, one of the things that they don't realize is it's an accumulation of experiences that happen. And one fine day, then it erupts volcano, and then you yourself are surprised कि अरे किया क्या मैंने? ऐसे कैसे हो गया? Everyone around you is also surprised. You yourself are also surprised कि अरे मैंने ये क्या कर दिया? So in that sense, so yeah, they do face burnout and they face, and then when they come in for therapy, and if they still don't, then it gets worse, and it starts affecting their relationships. They start affecting their financial decisions. Everything it starts to, and then it goes down into a spiral unless some sort of a relief is found or someone helps them out and things like that way, or then they themselves become so resilient and they come out of it. So yeah, it is the lack of psych education is something, yeah, that's the only way that you can build awareness with respect to these things. And but society has been like this way, and it will continue to be like this way. It is people who will make a difference, some who will not. So it's a mixture of everything, but you need to understand that those who are still living the old ways, why are they doing that, and what needs to change? And those who are ekdam technologically advanced also, they are also causing trouble. They are also, so what is all of that is happening? And this is just a part of human experience. Rather than seeing it as shameful or blaming someone and things, it's a holistic. It is accountability is required,
Mhm.
responsibility is required as well.
So, uh, does all these things carry towards, if we see some case of abusive marriage or abusive relationship? So, all these because of the lack of psych education, right? I think this is
Yeah.
the only. I mean, what's the mentality behind abusive relationships or abusive marriages, physical violence, and have you heard of this lalocasia, where people suffer from like uh, it's a pleasure when people the pleasure which people get by using the abusive words. I just read about it and I was like, wow, it's a condition, and many of us do not know.
Yeah, it's not a condition. In fact, as you have mentioned, it helps in catharsis. When you give bad words, I don't know if this movie was the Jab We Met, how he tells her, say the bad words and get it bhadas nikal do.
Right.
That is what it means. Like if you use abusive words and you get it out of, because see, you are doing something that is not supposed to be done, like a taboo. When you
Mm-hmm.
tap on a taboo, usually all the things that you had in place, they break. Because people who are very conformist, like who want to please others, who want to do good, they are very scared of doing something that is not good. So once you break, and it is very important, see, we are animal, we have evolved from animals, we still have our canines, so there is an aggressive aspect, men and women alike, within us. Now society, industrialization, everything that we have been doing is all, we are becoming civilized in that sense that we are able to tame that animal within us. But you see the amount of violence that is there, no, it is not tameable, है ना? And those people who do get violent at a very young age, they understand that it is it's a sense of power. You feel very powerful. Why do you think you watch MMA matches? Why do you watch sports so much? But yes, it is channelized in a very positive way, where people are working out. Why are people gymming? Why do you think it's at least being channelized? In the end, they're still making their body, they're still wanting to box, they want to so the violence is an inherent part of being human. How you use that violence is what matters. On whom you use that violence is what. Are you using it on a punching bag, or are you using it on your wife and children? And I should say that even in marriages, you see, many times we think that it's only men who are very violent in that sense. Unfortunately, women are very violent as well. You see it in the number of times a mother hits her child. You see, you think it's the man, and then the man is hitting the woman because she's weaker. You see how many times women hit their children, and then they say sorry, sorry, and it is okay, and all of that. You are hitting someone who is weaker than you, and then we don't file. Oh, ये तो मम्मा का प्यार है ना? How
Mm.
you explain it? So it's not, when we talk about domestic violence, it's not always about the husband and the wife. We should also talk about the children involved in it, because they cannot hit you back. That is a predatory nature in us, that we will take it out on someone who cannot challenge us. And that is where the difference between. So if you are not taught from childhood that it is not okay and you have to curb that animal within you,
Mhm.
मन होता है यार, मन सबका होता है. Everyone's run scenarios. Everyone is running scenarios of killing someone. You see, there will not be a single human being who has not run the scenario of killing someone. It's just that you don't go ahead and do it. But there are some people where that inhibition, because of any neurological, chemical changes in their brains or whatever, and they have been groomed to do it. So, and at a younger age, men are groomed to go fight it out, go do it. They've seen it in their house. Their fathers have done it. Their grandfathers have. It's a learned behavior, so they perpetuate it. But
Mm-hmm.
when a recent child comes who is unborn, if it's like a sponge or whatever, you program it. So you better program it in not a way to harm, or especially someone who's weaker than you. You want to challenge your strength. And also when we do have cases of domestic violence, we tell the women also, or even, and this is again, it's a myth that it's just so men show it through violence, okay, when they get angry, and it's a very physical thing to do. Women are very manipulative psychologically, so women who abuse, so I don't feel abuse is a gender specific thing. Women are equally, it's just that their abuse is very covert. So because women don't have the physical strength, they use their mind. They use ways and hierarchies and ways, like they can plan, they can pre-plan, they can see what it is to be done and things like that. So when men come as clients to me, it is the women who have psychologically destroyed them, their inner lives, in that sense. And since childhood, the way men are brought up and the women how they are brought up are very different things. So yeah, so in that sense, so this is how I see the family dynamics of violence in marriages, and how
Mm-hmm.
it is affected with respect to that.
So you deal with so many clients, right, for like providing the therapy. So as an expert, what are some like, or what is the most interesting case study you have come across, and what is the most common subject people come for seeking therapy?
So here I would like to say that every therapist is different, right? They specialize in different things. And for me, I get a lot of cases with respect to trauma as well. One of the most interesting case studies that I have come across. Okay, so yeah, um, there are so one of them was with respect to color blindness as well, and it was about a small child, and the reason I made that little gesture, I'll tell you, and it's not related to this case. I remembered another case, and I was unsure should I bring that up or not. But any which ways. So, but yeah, about this child. So he was colorblind. I didn't realize it unless I got him to art therapy in my session, and so he was coloring the trees blue and the grass blue. Sorry, the grass and the trees blue and the sky green. So that is when I came to know that something was, amiss and stuff. And plus, he had history. He was just in the fourth standard, and he was being abused by his mama as well. That is father's brother, kind of a thing, and things like that. So I reached out to the principal was amazing at that point of time. She really helped me out and called. He was staying with his grandparents for that point of time. His mother had left him and gone. So cases like that. I wouldn't say interesting to these cases because they're not interesting. They actually
Right.
teach you so much. I mean, you realize what you have seen. Another case was with an autistic child, and a 16-year-old girl, young girl, and very, very, very aggressive, very the other end of the spectrum, and would have physical fits and things like that. And I learned that because now at 16 and this thing, her uterus was removed in that sense, because how will she manage that, right? How will she take care of that? I mean, you don't know how to deal with it. But yes, I was I was interning at this autism school, and school meant for autistic children, and then they were handling it how it is to be handled, the decisions that need to be made and things like that. So I didn't and the case that I was telling previously, yes, so it's not just people who have been victims, all right. There are people who do a lot of wrong things also, and they still come to me because somewhere they are split. They really don't know what is to be done. So there was this person once. There are cases where people keep trophies in the sense of um, sexual addiction and things and stuff like that as well. And I don't take those cases, so I usually do a 15-minute discovery call and to see like if this is the client that I want to work with and things. But you can't judge, you can't judge admitting that I have pictures of women who I have been with and things and stuff like that. It's very difficult to really handle such things, and what do you do, and stuff. And this was very early in my professional life, and this was through a friend's contact and stuff and things like that. So it was not a really, so I couldn't even reach out to the place that I was working for at that point of time. So things like that, there are times when people just so yeah, very very yeah, they're not like interesting. They are like they're trying to change. It's not that they are sexual addiction and pedophilia and stuff and things like that. There
Right.
is a lot. It's just that people are trying to change, but they won't change at the same time. And you have to make tough decisions at that point of time. You need to know. You need to know inside out what the legal aspects are here. You cannot get yourself involved into them. You need to be careful whose rights are being violated, whose are not, and getting to the. And you can't always solve a case. It becomes like, so you are an investigator, a detective,
Mm-hmm.
so many roles that you are playing at the same time being a psychologist. So yeah, so that there are some yeah, I've seen it quite a bit, and that's why you really think you are grateful for what you have, and yeah. Yeah, I
So
don't
when
have
young
anything.
people, like, are there cases when young people come for like seeking therapy because of some relationship issues or
Yes,
toxic
they do.
marriages?
Yes, yes, lots of them of all types, and relationships. So, abhi to what I tell them is, it's very difficult to find a partner. Everyone wants to really find a partner, but then that is what it's like. It's a very dicey situation right now. Someone there was short term, long term. People are not sure what exactly that they want. There are so many connections and so many social media sites, but it's really difficult, and especially in COVID, the 2-3 years that people experienced, those who were
Mhm.
together had a fallout because they realized what they want and what they don't want, and you see people at their worst as well, and what happens. And there are people who really wanted to be with one another and couldn't, and lost out 2-3 years of their lives. So and relationship issues are mostly that one is a giver, one is a taker, and
Mhm.
then how do you manage that? Some people are ghosting, some people are not exes, and most of it is exes. And I think that's because at a young age you have these ideas about love, and the first love and things like that, way that kind of a thing, and then you're stuck in there of what if, what could be. And yeah, marriages as well, relationships, people are cheating on one another and things and stuff, and but yeah, you can't judge them in that sense. And why, the question is again for me, as I said,
Exactly.
why
Like,
why
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 the
is this happening?
infidelity in such cases
I
happen?
wrote a whole post about it. Yeah, it's a very why? Because needs, simple needs are not being met. Why those needs are not being met is a different question. So needs, and I'm not talking about just physical. I'm talking about emotional, psychological,
Emotions,
and
right?
stuff and things, and what happens between two people, and what are the dynamics, and not just needs. Each one's needs are different also. No, देखो कोई कोई सिर्फ आधी चपाती खा के they are fine. There are,
Mhm.
that is what how much my stomach is, and some people need 4 to 5 parathas to eat. So matching that need to different people, and this is same with men and women, and it changes in your lifetime as well.
Mhm.
So when women conceive and things, that's a different need. Post having a baby, they can't, yeah, they really can't give you what you means. The intimacy, the libido levels, so many things that happen, up and down. And how do you navigate these conversations is very important, because there's so much of judgment. people don't want to be humiliated. People are so scared of. So people love their spouses. It's not that they don't love them, but at the same time they can't get through to them. They don't know what is to be done. So yeah, so that it is a really tricky world to navigate through. But yeah,
Right.
communication. They're not communicating it. People hide. People don't share this. Again, don't want to be vulnerable. They
Right.
don't want to be vulnerable, so they don't want to put their positions over there. So yeah,
I have always seen that often men, they don't show their vulnerable sides as the female does because it's easy for women to cry or to show emotions.
men, men, you'll be surprised. Women also don't show their vulnerability.
Is it?
Crying is not vulnerability. Yeah, crying is not vulnerability.
Yeah,
That's one of
crying is
the
not a
mechanisms.
vulnerability, but at least uh we can tell our vulnerable story. Like if I have
It's
a
a
friend and I can
perfect.
cry.
No, perfect, perfect. Women are very good storytellers. They can weave a narrative and a story beautifully, and that is the reason why men don't believe them.
Like I can
Kind
have, or anybody can have tears in their eyes and they can easily be open and
Yeah.
very
No,
raw,
it's not
unfiltered.
true. Yeah, it's not true openness in that sense. Men tend to be more. See, men are creatures where they will share things of what you want to hear. They're very good at it. They will give you what you want.
Mhm.
If you want to hear good things, they will tell you only good things. They know that you won't be able to handle the bad things, so they will not tell you that. And then for a woman, she thinks that, oh, he's lying to me. But if he really tells you what's on his mind, you are in no capacity to accept it, isn't it? Many a times you say, okay,
Right.
tell me. But inherently in Indian society, especially women are so, their sense of self is very weak. You see, from the beginning, it's been told to them, this is not your house. You have to go. All your life is going to be about your husband. And this is not where you stay. Even after marriage, you're not sure about your finances. You don't know. You have to work your ass off, or you don't have to. You don't, nothing. There is no surety about what your life is going to be, who you're going to marry, where are you going to live, what kind of work you are going to do. There is no sense of surety. It is, she's living in a, like, abhi chalo jaise, like, there is no predictability. There is uncertainty everywhere. When there is uncertainty, how are you going to find a sense of self? How are you going to find that stability? Now, when that is not there, your whole life becomes about the person who's giving you that stability. It's about that man. Now, that man also has been taught, ki, Papa, you have certain questions, and which is outside the house. You cannot be telling it to the woman. You have to handle the outside world. You have to handle the other things and stuff like that. He cannot get weak. If he gets weak and he starts, then, it takes days. You see, when you are crying, when you're trying to feel your emotions, you go numb for quite some time. They cannot afford, in such a fast paced world, they cannot afford to get numb. That's why they say distance. That's why they will say, अरे नहीं, अभी नहीं, बाद में कर, एक महीने के बाद बात करते हैं. We'll talk it. Why do you want to talk it now? Because that it doesn't. They have to go to office the next day. So
Mhm.
does the woman as well at the same point of time. So even if, and men do sometimes tell what it is, but yeah, again, that sense of shame is there. For women also, slowly they are not disclosing things anymore. You see, in today's relationship, very few of them are. Like now, women who are in their 30s had more of abusive marriages. You see, the latest kind of a thing, there's a lot of manipulation that happens in relationships, men and women. The things what they want are very different. So they're very clear what they want from a man. And the expectation, the materialistic aspects, and the men are also in their own sense. So again, it's a socially constructed things of what is in fashion right now. That is what each of the gender wants then.
So then,
So that's what it is.
when there are discussions like social media and the digitalization, especially in terms of like dating apps, there are so many dating apps, right?
Yeah.
And then there are some sectors who criticize women for being so demanding because yes, they need a man who earns a specific amount of salary. They need a man who is emotionally mature, can handle the house, can handle the family,
Yes.
so usually I see that nowadays people are like that पहले की महिलाएं
Yeah.
अच्छी होती थी,
Abhi,
ना?
they were submissive, na? Now we are speaking up.
Yeah, but then
Now we are telling
everything
what they want.
I think drives from the psychology, right?
Yeah,
क्योंकि
yeah,
पहले
it does.
अगर वो
Yes,
suppress
yes,
हुई हैं, so now they will have their voice. And similarly
yes.
for men also, because men, I think, एक time था when we were living in a patriarchal society, when where male was the provider of the family, where men was seen as the mukhya of the house, like the king, right? He was taking all the decisions. So maybe it's because of वहाँ पे भी over exertion हुआ, बहुत overwhelm हुआ, and then men became submissive. And now we see men in emotional distress, like recently the news of that man in Bangalore committing suicide. So I think this the psychological factors plus, I think.
Uh, about that case of suicide about this person, see, now the reason is not known why he's committed. It is due to psychological stress. Was he sick before he was married or after
Mhm.
he got married? There are so many cases and levels of it now. So I've not gone through the whole case study with respect to it, but it's not that emotional. It is becoming okay for men to express emotions as well, but again the roles are different. It's important for women also to voice, but it is how she's doing it. So even if a woman is demanding, it's also about how you're putting across your demands and requirements as well. It's like, okay, I want a guy who's earning 5 lakhs or whatever it is. Now that seems a little arrogant. Okay, I want a well settled guy who, maybe because this is what my requirement is, or I've struggled all my life to be where I'm at. And but yeah, when women start talking about materialistic things, they are considered negative in that sense. So that is the battle that has to be fought. And even men, see, now when they're talking about suicides, or and the rate of suicide in men is higher than women, because there is no way out. There is so much of emotional repression that does happen.
Right.
Now case to case is very different. Each case is different, why it was done and how it is, what were the factors affecting it. Just because it's like death, right? Abhi, death has happened, but what are the causes of it? Even if it is an accident, you see, how did that accident actually take place is very important. Was it a mutual thing? Was it truly an accident? Did it actually, so same thing with suicide. Suicide is like, okay, someone has killed themselves. No, but there is so much of information that has to go along with it. It is same thing. Accident हुआ पर किसने किया, कैसे हुआ, कौन था? Was it drunk? Was it driving? Someone was crossing the road. Something happened. कुछ bulldozer कुछ गिर
Mhm.
गया. Is we don't know, and then people, and आजकल तो सोशल मीडिया एक बात हो गई तो चलो हम सब अपना इंटरव्यू, कोई, no one is interested in knowing actually what happened. People
Right.
land up at the person's house. No, there's no investigation only that is done, and
Yeah, but I
बाद में
think,
पता चलता है, then like, oh हाँ, और मुझे तो पता ही था already.
because of all the factors, चाहे वो evolutionary time से हो, psychological factors, emotional factors, I think females are becoming more practical in a way, and men are becoming more expressive in terms of like emotional, on the emotional side. Because now, when men express their emotions, many people are like, "Oh, he's crying like a girl." And if a female is seen as a bossy lady, and it's taken in a negative way.
The thing is, we can't generalize these things. That's what a very important thing for me. You see, when we are talking about, see, in a day on Instagram, maybe we must be seeing 50, 60 reels, so only those many people that we see. And then we form concepts and we realize, or we start categorizing things like, oh, these men, or we hear podcasts, we
Right.
hear, and the same thing is being repeated. But you see, that is not the case. There have been men who have been expressive from before, otherwise, art wouldn't have formed. We have such brilliant artists. That is all the men expressing their emotions, right? We've had the Renaissance and so many other aspects. We've had, our freedom movement itself. You see, Gandhi did vocalize with respect to non-violence. So it's not at now, and women, not just in this today's age. See, Kiran Bedi, there were so many women. It's just that they were not documented. You didn't speak. You see the freedom struggle movement. Women were at forefronts, but no one wrote about them. That is a different thing. Very little is known. Jhansi Ki Rani and stuff. It is not कि अभी से हो रहा है. Women, they've always been this thing. There have been a mixture. ये अभी, this is, I feel, this is a very social kind of a thing that abhi unko lag raha hai, because opportunities are opening up now in our defense forces. Also, we have women. Today only I saw first woman who has been posted at Saichin and stuff like that way. It's just opportunities are opening, so they have to step into that role. And then it's not bossy, because you know, when in Rome you dress up as the Romans, so that is what the you have to undertake those tasks in that sense. And now if men have to also be, now those roles, if women are taking, they have to be roles which the men have to fulfill. But yeah, it's, I don't believe that men nowadays are more expressive, or that women,
Okay.
see the movies that were made by Satyajit Ray and stuff and things, such depth, such expression. See music, see the songs.
Mm-hmm.
We just see 50, 60 reels in a day, and we form entire judgments of how gender is. Gender is, you talk about Afghan, which country are you talking about? Which diaspora are you talking about? Which population are you talking about? You're talking about the village. Array, you should see the way women in the village fight with one another. You will not realize if it's a man or a woman. They beat up men. You know, when you go into the outskirts and stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
ऐसे नहीं, there men are crying also, and you know, there are women who don't show mercy. So that gender thing that we are still so stuck on, na, ye men versus women wala. I think, and this gender role has to. I just saw this, some Danish school was there or somewhere in the Netherlands. Oh, they're making the boys comb the girls' hair, 6 year olds and stuff. They're making the boys learn, you know, the womanly things that women do, like combing hair, a doll's hair, or each other's hair, and cooking and all of that. And they're making girls be very strong. Oh, throw this, you throw that. Array, but why are you getting the gender? Na? Let the child do what the child wants to do. Why are you again grooming them? There are girls who are boyish, and there are girls who really want to be girlish. They still want to wear pink. I'm wearing pink today. Not that I've been a very tomboy. I मन हुआ pink पहनने का. So why are you stopping them from doing what they want to do? Maybe today and there are some boys who are emotional. So I would say, get beyond the gender thing and understand individual needs first. You want to talk about so much, talk. And what we are talking about, this rape and violence and all of that, it is pathological. It's like a sickness, right? When you talk about this sickness is a very different thing that happens. So when we talk about marital rape, when we talk about all of that, that is a very sick. Not everyone is doing that. Consent is a different thing. And be
Okay.
very this thing, again, it's a very sensitive topic, but with respect to, you know, when a couple is trying for a baby, all right, you see gynecologically as well, they have to clock in. Okay, it is like the woman is ovulating for a few days, or you know, and it has to, when the doctor has told you, you have to do it within in those 2 days. It's a very mechanical process. Now what are you going to do about that? You know, and sometimes a man is not in no mood to do that, you know, but the woman, you've seen this in this series called Friends, where between Monica and Chandler, they're trying to conceive, and like she's like, no, now get, let's do this now, and you expect men to be ready all the time, hai na? So it's, again, I can give you same amount of examples of why men also suffer and women also suffer. It has nothing to do with gender. It is about the person, who that person is, what their circumstances are. So it is not. So many a times the men are not wanting to do it, and still you are supposed to do it. If this is made for conceiving or for whatever other reasons, or prove themselves, and they're made to marry, even if people are not straight, like, you know, they're made to marry and they're supposed to bear a child. So there is, those aspects are there. But yes, many a times, with terms of marital rape, consent is the problem. Consent, because women are seen as objects where they don't have a mind of their own. There is no sense of, like, she is not a person. This is not a person. This is just a woman. And they've not that thing is only not cultivated that this is a human being, because they're just the chores. It's like any other pet animal that you will have.
And is it the
And
same case with the rapes where men insert some objects
oh,
into the
that
woman, like
is
they
different.
pierce it with a rod or
That is
something?
violence. See, rape has never been about a sexual thing. It has always been about violence and power. So when they are doing that, they are completely off their head. They don't see the body as a body. Means it has no soul. It has no nothing. They're just experimenting. You see, it is a very deviant behavior. They are sick in their mind. It means a sick person will not. You can't even imagine it. Even animals won't do that, and unless they're in a fight or something like that way, and they will kill each other. And what is to be done? And it is more so to teach a lesson to this person, and and it's the mob mentality that happens. They're together, and let's try. You see, when deviant men come together, the more creative is a
Mhm.
very wrong word, but that is what they do. What is to be done? How do you humiliate? What do you try? What do you twist? How do I prove my masculinity in that sense? But trust me, women are capable of violence as well in that sense. You see, as I said, it is always done to the weaker person. And men do it to animals as well. It's known that the deviant behavior start at a very young age. They do it to animals. They do it first, and slowly it is. So these men, it's not the first time that they must have done that to a girl. I'm sure they must have done it to animals and stuff in the beginning, and then they up one level. It starts going up in that sense. And women also, with respect to the children, if you see some, they will burn their children, they will hit their children, they will throw things at for if they have been disobedient. You see teachers, you see some things about teachers as well. Sometimes women are, you see pimps. Women are the major accomplices as well, to tricking other women and getting them into human trafficking and things like that way. So it's not just the men doing it, it is the women who will do many aspects. Again, it's about a very individual human thing as well. What they are the co uh, partners in the crime as well, in that sense, sometimes.
So taking a little deviation towards the LGBTQ community, as you said that, violence, that's the main reason if somebody wants to prove their domination over somebody. So I think LGBTQ community, they suffer a lot, but not many of them come out, and not many of them have the support of their family and friends, right? Do you think that
Yes.
this section 377, it kind of uh, erased the mental health issues like faced by this community?
And not erase it, it's a beginning somewhere, no? It
It's
is
a
at least a
beginning, right?
beginning somewhere. You have to start somewhere. So at least utna to hua hai. Yeah, it's not up to the mark, definitely not. And it is, as I said, we are still a developing country. It is going to take some time for us to resolve all of these aspects. And but decriminalizing is a very huge step with respect to that. And there are so many complications. And no, and I don't. I've worked with the community, and I don't encourage them to come out. In a society like ours, it is, be very careful who you open up to. Be very careful who are you sharing it with. And it is lonely. It is very important for them to form their networks, to form their groups. But again, as I say, it is again about the person, not the community. Even in that community, they have their own deviant people in that sense, who take advantage, who prey on each other and stuff like that way. So it's about human nature. Again, there are someone people who are really genuine and some who are not, and they need to be careful with respect to that. But yes, the government needs to do much more with respect to the community, and we ourselves, trying to have an open mind. And I call them non-binary. So binary and non-binary.
Hmm.
Binary means you think that the gender is only two, and non-binary is, no, it is not just man and woman. There is so many aspects and different levels. And there's an amazing educational aid called as the gender-bred person, which explains very beautifully what and how, what sexuality, what identity is, what it means in the physical form, in the mind, in the heart, in the body. And again, it's a spectrum as well. So a lot of education again here as well with respect to this. That needs to be an empathy. Yeah? At the end, let the other person live their life on their terms, and
Hmm.
how much you encroach on it. एंड पीपल आर लाइक नहीं मेरा बच्चा ऐसे हो जाएगा उनको देख के थे अरे कहाँ पे आपका बच्चा तो बहुत सारे टीवी वीडियो गेम देख रहा है जो चीजें बहुत वायलेंस सीखता है तो करेगा वो तो इट इज अपॉन यू टू मैनेज you can't keep blaming other things you see your parenting skills and are you
Mm-hmm.
going to teach your child that there is more things. It's again education, that there is more to than just being a girl and boy. But हाँ, who are you? People think कि नहीं उनको mix किया तो उनको dilute हो जाएंगे बच्चे. Man has to be like a man and woman has to be like a woman and अगर mix हो गया तो dilute हो जाए. अरे ऐसे थोड़ी होता है. It's a very identity. What identity are you giving them? And just the way there is religious identity, so sexual identity, emotional identity, financial identity. है ना कि आप रिच हो या पुअर हो क्या है अगर आप पुअर हो तो पुअर वाली आइडेंटिटी बन जाएगी दैट
Mm-hmm.
डजंट मीन यू बिकम रिच वन डे और रिच वाली है तो आप पुअर नहीं बन पाओ
Right.
it's all about identity and social status and so many other things you have to tell them about gender but yeah these topics are a taboo still so yeah
Right. So you believe that a large section of all the criminology stuff is dependent on psychology rather than sociology, right?
Yes. See, the reason why it is criminology is because we don't see so much of societal influence on it because any subject, when we talk about, we are studying the mind of the criminal. That is why it's called criminology. It's a specialized subject. And it is like veterinary sciences if it
Mm-hmm.
is there so we are talking about only animals, right? You need to understand how animals bodies and everything
Mm-hmm.
works, so it is veterinary. It's not that it is not mbbs, it is everything that you learn in mbbs as well, but that is for the human body. Now
Mm-hmm.
here in the mind also, people like now neurodivergent children or LGBT community, what is happening in the mind is a very different, the sense of identity. Now one needs to know criminals' minds also because they are deviant, right? You need to understand how do they work, what do they do, like something like a strophe, serial killers, especially when you are talking about that, or these rapes and people who do these mass violence, genocides, and all of that. Powerful people doing absolutely monstrous things, gas chambers. If you talk about Hitler and stuff like that, what is criminal or what provokes a human being to become a criminal, and there is a lot of studies that is the reason why societal aspects are not taken into it and it is focused only on the personal aspects, and there are case studies. That is what makes you a criminal. Like someone has a particular style in what they do things, why do they do it, and it's again a behavioral profiling of that particular person. So that is why it's about the person and not the social dynamics of it are taken
Okay.
into consideration in criminology. Yeah.
I think even in the cases of suicide, societal aspects, they are not counted and just taken into consideration the personal factors. Because, yeah, I want to know your take on there are various theories of suicide, right? So, what is your perspective that is society the reason that provokes a person for suicide, just as we talked about the
Yeah.
criminal
And
stuff?
now suicide as a concept, suicide as a concept is very old. It is not something that is new. Human beings from before and society was made so that they don't commit suicide in that sense. In a spiritual sense and stuff, in a more beautiful way, if it is said, one of the practices that happen in Hinduism and other some religions is samadhi as well, right? When people take consciously, and even in many Jain traditions as well, people consciously take a vow that they are going to go to fast and they don't want to, and they wo moksha ke liye, or for, but that is they're not trying to escape this world. They have done their work in this world and then they take samadhi. Papa, I've completed what work I had to come here for. It has been done and now I want to leave this earthly plane and go to another plane. This is a very, but this exists, you know, this has existed since thousands of years and stuff like that. Now, the suicide which we read in newspapers, so no one talks about it. This happens on a very daily basis in many religious places, with taking samadhi and stuff, and it is revered. There's a lot of importance given to that. But of course, that is not considered because that is a very holy thing to do, and the purpose is very different. Now, with respect to the ones that we see in the news and students doing this and stuff like that way, that is when you feel a sense of hopelessness and helplessness, and there's no way out with respect to
Mm-hmm.
that. And the society is, of course, the reason why it happens. The society is responsible. Yes, that is not being taken into account. That needs to be taken into account. And also, again, we spoke about resilience, right? Not everyone is
Mm-hmm.
made the same, and we really can't know that who is going to take that life and who is not going to. There are so many people, my own friends, who have had friends who have committed suicide, and they're surprised, oh, I didn't even know, and things. But now, of course, now when we do suicide prevention programs, there we know what to look out for, what are the signs, and how do you can help, and
Right.
things like that. And it does exist, as we said, it exists more in men as well. And because is seen as the last way through, that I can't take it anymore, and that hope goes away, loss of hope that is there, that my life cannot get it better. There is no hope left that my life can get better, and this is too much to bear. And um, and sometimes, yeah, it is to free yourself in some ways. and
Mhm.
and everyone, and many a times, people, because of the mental health awareness, or there's so many talks, people are so scared, when many a times, like, they are scared of thinking about, like, oh, these thoughts of killing myself have come. You see, if human beings, every human being who has come on this planet and has lived a few amount of years, maybe even 20, 30 years of their life, at least once a thought will come that, what if I cease to exist? So, when you talk about suicidal thoughts, it is important to give it importance and to see, yeah, what is it really going to happen. Again, it's on a spectrum. What I'm talking about is a less spectrum one, where, you don't get scared, or sometimes people, you see many lovers and stuff cutting their hands, मेरे को तुम्हारे बिना जी नहीं सकती हूँ मैं, and stuff. Some do it in
Yeah.
stunt also, just light enough, not deep enough to kill themselves, light enough
Yeah.
just to get the boyfriends to get
Attention.
attention.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, self-harming behaviors are there. Now, when they are done, drugs is there and stuff. So it's very, again, manipulation. How much of it is, and you can't really know, you can't really predict. That is why it's so dicey, and that is why it's so difficult. When is it actually really serious that you need to take it? Because people control other people. You see, that is the most common emotional blackmail that exists. You see grandparents having done that, like, if you don't marry this person, I will kill myself. If you don't do
Yeah.
this, if you don't befriend your abusive brother or something, we will kill, or if you don't give me
Even
money,
in
it is because of
institutions.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, people
Like,
do
because
that. I
I
mean,
think all the institutions, especially in India, I would say we emphasize so much on productivity that it takes an emotional toll, that I have to excel in my academic journey. I have to get the title of a doctor, or I have to maintain a, on the list of the merit scholar. If I don't do that, my parents won't be proud of me. The society won't be proud of me. And when that
yes.
the expectation doesn't match, I think it's a big issue.
Yeah, and it is emotional blackmail, right? Baba, you're
Uh,
killing me by not studying, and this is going to make me really sad. And the other way also, you see, suicidal, also people threaten people with suicide. I've had cases where people have faked pregnancies, faked this thing that, if you don't be with me, I'm going to kill myself, and things like that way, and all of that. So the emotional, so it's a very tricky place to be in, as well, and very sad thing to do, but people give in to it because no one wants to be responsible for someone else's life. So though it is decriminalized, there are so many aspects to it, and that is the reason why genuine, when actually the help is to be given, it's not being given, because
mm,
people are not sure. पीपल आर नॉट श्योर कि अरे बाबा मैनिपुलेट कर रहे हैं या क्या कर रहे हैं या एक्चुअली। एंड इमोशनल ब्लैकमेल के इसमें बाबा इतनी जिंदगियां खराब हो गई है बिकॉज ऑफ दिस दैट आई विल कमिट सुसाइड के इसमें पीपल आर रियली अनश्योर कि ये करना है। एंड सम ऑफ देम द क्लाइंट्स हु कम टू मी, तो दे आर सो like, even the thoughts, like, oh, my friend is getting this thought of killing oneself, itna hi karna hai to gain sometimes people say that, वैसे, and it gets the other person worried. Now, actually कर रहे हैं नहीं कर रहे, we don't know, but I want to say that every human being has thought of ending oneself, not in that, even in a very casual way, like what if I cease to exist? You exist. What if I cease to exist? It's as simple as that.
Mhm.
So this is enough. And if you have anyone who is threatening or who is saying, please reach out to a professional. There are suicide helplines. Just me or a psychologist. I do not. It is not an psychologist. Don't provide emergency services. You need to really give them the helplines to actually talk it through and ask a few questions. There are some resources which are available online right now. So those need to be taken care of. And of course, institutions and the pressure that institutions put in things, yeah, it is a lot of pressure as well in that. And sometimes even if many a times parents are not, it's not about the said pressure, it is about the unsaid pressure. When we talk about suicide, it's not about what is actually being said to you. It is about the things that are not being said, but you can see it in the body language. You can see it in their expectations, from their behavioral cues. That is what gets to the other person.
Mhm.
And the things that are not being done. Friends have not called. People are not bothered about me. People are not even, everyone is self serving in their own sense. So that is something that really, yeah, it's difficult.
So, with your experience in policy making, what changes do you believe that we need to make at the systemic level so that we can support mental health in both professional and educational setting? And we will end this conversation by listening to your journey towards a pro behave, how you how you had your brilliant idea towards pro behave, and what motivated you to start that.
All right. So, answering your first question with respect to public policy, I want to democratize psychology and mental health, in that sense that everyone should get access to it. Right now, currently in India, it is a very elitist kind of a thing. It is a knowledge which is not being shared, or people expect that only the ones who have studied it should have access to it. So all the theories and everything should be taught. It should become a compulsory subject in all the grades, and be a very, it's as I said, as important as languages. Please make psychology an important subject to be studied at all levels, so that people know their theories, and it is to demystify it. It is not a very complex thing. It is, yes, it is a little abstract, but it is not very. So is maths, and so is physics, and so is chemistry, but we're still learning it. So it needs to be demystified. And also the correlation, and it is, when we're talking about public policy, there is so much that is being done in public behavior. So many people, advertising people, know about how psychology is being used, but they are not using it into for positive changes. They are using in the capitalist scenario. So for me, that people need to be more aware of how their minds are being used, how big companies and stuff use psychology to get them to hooked into addiction, social media addiction. You think it's not the people's fault that they're getting addicted. The apps are being made such that you are hooked into it. You are, your behaviors are being changed because they're sitting there. They have the best resources. They have AIs and stuff, and to do all of that. And yes, so that's my thing with respect to public policy: democratize psychology. And right now, it is psychology. They have narrowed the scope so small that it is only mental health. But that subject is so vast, in the sense that human behavior and human experience, can you imagine how vast that subject is? And you're narrowing it out only to health. So, no, it's not like that. Like medicine, right? It is not just with respect to when you're learning about the human body, it's not health. There are so many parameters to it. So I want people to take interest in psychology as a subject as a whole. So when you're learning maths, maths is also used for money, for economy, for physics, for chemistry, for every. Same thing is with psychology. An interdisciplinary approach is what is required. Health is just one part. Maths can be used in health also, in insurance and all of that, or measuring medicines and stuff. But see the vast applicability of it. Don't
Right.
restrict it only to health. That is my 2 cents on it. And with respect to Pro Behave, my journey as a psychologist, I already told you, started some time back. Pro Behave is somewhere it is a service as well. I do provide one-to-one counseling
What is
services.
pro behave like?
Pro Behave is just a name I came up with, and it was about promoting conversations around behavior but now I'm doing a bit of a pivot, and I wanted to make it more tangible in that sense. So watch out for us in the coming year. And it is with respect to promoting. Pro stands for promoting, and behave is for behavior. So promoting behavior in whatever that we do, and in all the spheres that it is about awareness, about psychology. Anything to do about human behavior and experience is something I want to build with Pro Behave. And we have it in the form of stories, we have it in the form of many things that are coming up right now. We are still in the nascent stage of development, but whenever I want people to think of Pro Behave, I want them to know that human behavior is something that everyone has the right to know and to understand, and to make it your own as well. So, and have fun learning about the subject as well. So this is what my aim and vision for Pro Behave is. And let's see, and yeah, democratizing behavior and psychology in that sense.
Do you want to ask me anything?
Yes, Richa, thank you so much for having me. And we had a brief conversation previously, and I wanted to know a little bit about your experience as well. With respect to, you mentioned that you were, a veterinarian science student
Mhm.
as well, and you mentioned about. Tell me a little bit about yourself as well, no?
So I am a veterinarian. I did my bachelor's in veterinary medicine from India, Nanaji Deshmukh University, which is in Jabalpur. And then I had my master's in public health and epidemiology from Guru Angad Dev University, which is in Ludhiana. And yes, I was working as a research scientist for like, I guess for 5, 6 years now. I have worked where making pathogens in the lab was the main task as a scientist, like making bacteria or viruses and studying them. And yes, I remember you asked me about um, the ethical research, right? Which, like,
Yes, please. Because as I said, for me, behavior, why, what intrigued you? What lessons did you learn from a behavioral perspective, especially ethics and things like that? I would love to
so,
know more.
firstly, I would say, okay, so I would start like, yes, there are use of animals when it comes to biomedical research. Like, when you make pathogens in the lab and then you use that pathogen to inject into an animal, and then euthanizing the animal so that you can study further pathogenesis and all the immunological stuff. The purpose behind it is so that we can better understand the outcomes of the disease, or better understand the outcome of any vaccine, for the human health.
Yes.
But then again, I think that it has two aspects. Firstly, I have observed many colleagues of mine, many friends of mine who undergo the emotional distress, anxiety, depression, and basically there is a conflict.
Yeah,
Um,
but
and I would
you're
say,
saving on one end, you are wanting to save
yeah,
life, right?
yeah,
And on the other, you are like taking and infecting animals, even if they are lower in consciousness, or we really don't know, but still, taking life and experimenting on them. Like, how did you
yes.
cope? What
So,
happens to you on
as far
the
as I have studied, I know that this phenomena is known as moral stress or moral injury. It's like when a person involves in some action which are against or which are conflicting his or her moral values or ethical values, right?
Yes,
Then again, there are two aspects I'm telling you. First, that I have seen some of the colleagues who go through emotional distress because there is a conflict or a tension between advancing science and animal healthcare. They cannot balance it because when they see getting an animal euthanized, they just go into this compassion fatigue kind of state where they cannot deal with that. And on the flip side, there are people, or there are veterinarians, or I would say researchers, all the researchers as a whole, who just, I guess, who goes with or who rely with this ethical research and with the ethical justification, saying that I am conducting a research so that I can save humankind from the particular disease.
that's
Or
how they would justify their work and for a larger cause. Like, it's like
I think
you,
it's
the
fed into the
means,
mind, and
kind
that's
of
what I was telling.
brainwashed.
Yes, and
Yeah.
also, I mean, I must say that institution, yes, they put a lot of intense emphasis on productivity. They have to meet a certain amount of, research data to be published, or research. They have a lot of research expectations from the student, and it's an intense stress on them. And yes, professors or faculties, they train the veterinarians or the researchers for this, where they are brainwashed that you have to use this animal, otherwise, how would you discover a new drug for the humankind? So some people, as you said, resilience, some people, cope up with that, but some do not, and they really have anxiety, stress, fear. Now again, many
Here, I'd like to
veterinarians.
interrupt you about fear, and there was this something. Well, what is your fear? What is any fear that you would like to?
When I was in my undergrad program, so many of us have this anxiety issues when we see animal dying in front of eyes and because of our own actions. But then we are reluctant to we are very reluctant to seek a therapy or tell about those mental health issues, because it's a fear connected with that you are not seen as a professional doctor, you are not seen in a professional
It's a
settings.
weakness. That's how mostly this thing.
Yes.
There was this question you had asked me previously. Also, I think that, what is, there are so many phobias. What is a very
Mhm.
interesting phobia? And one of it is, it's called phobophobia, the fear of fear itself.
Mhm.
Is also one of the things where the when you fear the fear itself, like that's going to happen, right? You're going to do something, as you said, the moral fatigue or the moral injury that is going to happen, and then fearing that. I think that is what happens with many people as well.
Many
Like,
people,
oh,
yeah.
I will have to do that again. So yeah, moral injury. Very few people talk and even discuss about these things, and yes,
I guess
yes,
this is the only one reason I have never opted for animal science, like, or I would say, because in animal science, it's there are subjects like poultry rearing, pig rearing, which I told you. Instead of that, I chose a paraclinical subject. But then again, paraclinical, again, it has animal experimentations which you have to deal. So I think it doesn't matter if you are in any domain of veterinary science or biomedical area, because it's divided into clinical and paraclinical. So
okay.
clinical field is like when you deal with the real cases. So I
Mhm.
basically, I would say that a person is considered a good doctor, or if he or she is seen as a professional person, when he is
Don't
in a
use it
clinical
as,
area.
no, again, no emotions involved. Just do your job, do your this thing like
Huh.
a machine, do it
Like
very well.
many students want to become a surgeon or a gynecologist, or they want to become a medical practitioner just for the sake of this, so that the society will respect me. Because when you wear a white apron and you go in the operation theater to perform a surgery, yes, you get an immense respect with that white coat. But on the other hand, on the flip side, me as a paraclinical, working on building some pathogens in a lab, I haven't seen people respecting me at the same level. Although I am also a veterinarian, I have the same experience like my colleagues. But again, it's a very different thing. So I have seen
And now
people.
post COVID, though, it's a different thing only because they may just see you as a curiosity and ask you
Uh-huh.
all weird sense of questions, but the respect is not, because that's the thing now, that's saving lives. In fact, you may be saving more lives
But
compared
then
to what the
I
doctor
think,
does
yeah, but then
because of your research.
I think
Yeah.
pandemic was a blessing in disguise, because this COVID thing gave us this immense respect and the name, which was
Yeah,
not
because
there
what all
previous.
happens? No one knew what you all did. No one knew
Yeah.
what researchers did in the labs until and unless it did not affect the masses, right? Publicly, it started
Right.
to affect masses so that people came to know what exactly do you all do. And a very similar thing, even in I would say in psychology as well. People want to take these doctor degrees.
Mm.
They study for five years. They're applying and stuff. And at the end of it, you'll be surprised, Richard. They don't know a thing. They don't know basics of empathy. They don't know basics of this thing. But no, मैं doctor बन गया हूँ या बन गई हूँ, and now it
Right.
is to be expected. So that again is a very poor uh, thing. Yeah. So
Thank you, Anya. I really enjoyed the conversation with you and I learned a lot. So,
Thank
thank you for joining this podcast episode.